So today I want to talk to you about ADD versus ADHD. We'll go over some, general brain chemistry, brain balancing, talk about the science behind our neurotransmitters. It's really my favorite topic, not so much ADD and ADHD, but balancing the brain. That is where I started on my journey. And for all of you new to the group, I'm Sandy, the author of Heal Yourself. I'm founder of the Integrative Healing Academy, Integrative Healing Practitioner. And like I said, that is where I started. My first step on my healing journey was getting off the antidepressant that I was on. I was diagnosed with manic depression when I was 18 years old and tried different medications, and we settled on an antidepressant that had, decent results in that I stopped huge swings from, 2 weeks of mania to 2 weeks of depression and migraines. So it balanced things a little bit, but it did turn me off into a zombie and I couldn't get off of it. And I really felt like crap. A lot of the symptoms that I ended up having that were that I was told from doctors that was because of lupus was actually just a medication side effect. And when I was able to finally get off the antidepressant and balance my brain naturally, I was able to reach a level of clarity and health that I couldn't even describe. And mental health issues really run in my family. So that was very much the normal. And I didn't think that it was possible to reach that level. Now, even after I had my brain balance, there was still a lot of mindset work and emotional healing to do from past trauma and a lot of different, we get into very repeating cycles of thought patterns in our brain. And that was a long journey that I went on to really work through that. But having a balanced brain allows you to do that much, much easier. So anything neurotransmitter related, it's something that started my journey. And when I first started on my journey, we didn't know anything about genetics at the time. So we understood a little bit about the neurotransmitters, but everything was trial and error and a lot of error. But now that we know how the genetics affects it and how we can use the organic acids test and genetics to really see a really big picture of the brain, we take a lot of guesswork out of the equation and really can streamline people's healing journey so much faster, because the brain is the master organ. If it doesn't function at optimal health, nothing else is going to function at optimal health. If you're always anxious and stressed and depressed and having OCD behaviors, it is very, very hard to heal from there, because you are burning through your resources as though you were being chased by a tiger all day, even though you could be sitting on your couch doing nothing. So important that we start with the brain. And most practitioners are really clueless on how to read the labs that look at neurotransmitters. They'll run something like an organic acids test, or even just a test that's specifically for neurotransmitter metabolites, and they think they're looking at real levels in the brain, and that's not the case. You're seeing metabolites, so how your body is breaking it down. And if you don't have a picture of genetics, you are just guessing. Those tests actually mean nothing if you do not know somebody's genetic status. So I'm definitely one of the very few practitioners who are very well versed in genetics and balancing the brain. Most practitioners don't even touch it. They don't understand it. I'm really happy that I've got a lot of grads out there from the Integrative Healing Academy who now are very well versed in this, and they're out there. They're going to be making an impact. So my mission right now is to get more practitioners certified through the Integrative Healing Academy and certified with the Heal Yourself program, so that they can go out there and do this work. And neurotransmitters is definitely a really big piece, but it's only a part of the picture. At the Academy and in my Heal Yourself program, we look at the body as a whole. We tackle every single system, and we do so in a specific order that works with the body to heal instead of against it. So we're going into Black Friday, and I might as well share, it's going to be released tomorrow. We are having up to 40% off sale for Black Friday up until Cyber Monday. So starting tomorrow, the 20th to the 27th, up to 40% off on the Integrative Healing Academy course and even on my coaching packages. So I'll be posting some stuff about that this week. We only have limited spots available, so definitely take advantage of the discount. If it's been something that you've been thinking about, then jump on that. We just decided this weekend that we were going to do that for everyone, because I do know that there's some people who have been really wanting to, and they've been waiting for some, kind of kick in the pants. And often one of those, when you do a sale or have a discount, that's what's needed for these people to take action. And there's, I have some people who are clients of mine who I know would make amazing practitioners, and they're just stuck in some fears, which our fears end up creating an excuse. But at the root of every excuse is a fear, and they're stuck in those fears and they're keeping them where they are. And I just think they have such an amazing story to share. And, as a practitioner, they'd be able to help so many people. And really, I love helping people heal. It's amazing when you get testimonials and people sharing their successes. There's a lot of babies out there right now who probably wouldn't have been born had I not been doing the work that I'm doing. And people really changing their lives and making transformations, and it's really magical. And then I started, seeing my grads, the transformations they've made in their lives, and working through and becoming practitioners, and the confidence they've found in themselves, and the way they've been able to shape and change their entire life with the course and with the knowledge. And it's just amazing. So that's what lights my fire. So very excited. We do have really big goal to really reshape the world of functional medicine through the Heal Yourself program, because there's so many practitioners out there that are just practicing an allopathic model. So they're just treating symptoms. You show up to them there and you tell them that you have anxiety, and they're like, okay, well, maybe it's your adrenal glands, let's test that. Or maybe it's your hormones, let's test that. And there's no path, there's no structure, there's no plan. And that plan is key. And working on the whole body is key, because no system in the body functions independently of itself. So really, really passionate about this. I have some huge plans in the new year for the Academy, and I'll share that in another post, because I have been going on about this. So let's dive into ADD versus ADHD. What I have found, and I might have a very different take on this than most practitioners, because I do look at the genetic piece, and because I have literally analyzed hundreds and hundreds of genetics tests along with organic acid tests, and seeing people's symptoms and seeing how that correlates with their genetics, their metabolites, and their symptoms. So one thing that I have found is that ADD and ADHD are actually different, and they're often thrown together. And the ADD is usually due to low dopamine, and it's going to present as low drive, low motivation, lack of focus, inability to stay on task. People say it's procrastination, and that low dopamine is a big player. Now, it's not always the only player. There can be other reasons why that's happening, like trauma and other things. Like you could have issues making dopamine because you're having oxalate overload or your ammonia is too high. So it's not that they shouldn't have higher dopamine. There's a problem with that. But I've found that the ADD is the low dopamine, and the ADHD is actually caused by high dopamine, because we have the hyperactivity, but the lack of focus is there. So ADD, normally we're going to see somebody COMT minus. So that is the enzyme that breaks down dopamine in your brain, is COMT. And when we're looking at genetics, minus, so no mutation, means no mutation. If we have plus minus, there's one mutation. And if we have plus, there's two mutations. Now, in genetics, when there's a mutation, it either means that the enzyme is being sped up or it's being slowed down. And when we're looking at COMT, the mutation there is going to slow down the enzyme. So somebody with COMT minus, they do not have a mutation, and so they're going to break down dopamine very, very quickly. And what happens for most of those people is because we lead such stressful lives and we're not getting the proper nutrients in our diet, we run out of precursors and cofactors. So cofactors are what the enzyme needs to function, and precursors is the amino acid directly before what your body converts it to. So for dopamine, our body takes tyrosine and then converts it directly. Well, actually, there's one extra step. There's dopa, and then from there, it converts it into dopamine. Now, we use tyrosine to build that up. It's the precursor. It builds dopamine. The cofactors are going to be magnesium and zinc and P5P. That's what the COMT enzyme needs to function and do its job and make dopamine and to break down the dopamine. So if you run out of these cofactors, then your enzymes stop functioning. If you run out of the precursors, your enzymes are not able to do their job. So for ADD, we have the COMT minus minus. So what we want to do to help those people is we want to give them more dopamine. And we do that with tyrosine, and we do that with the precursors so that the body is able to make it, right? Because COMT is always going to be breaking it down really quickly. So they're going to need a lot to keep their dopamine levels up. And then we can do things like ginkgo biloba. Ginkgo works by actually slowing down the breakdown of dopamine. So you have more dopamine available to you. So if you have ADD, I highly recommend, or anything, run your genetics. See what your COMT status is before you start playing around with this. And a word of caution that you may feel that you want more dopamine and you want to be a lot more productive. But if you suffer from anxiety, that is very contraindicated. That is not a good thing. You need to work on the anxiety first, because when you build up your dopamine, you will quickly break it down into adrenaline and you will just get more and more anxious. So if anxiety is present, building dopamine is not what we do. So for those people, if you have a lot of anxiety, we work on building serotonin, we work on building GABA, we work on a lot of mindset work so that you're able to get that anxiety in check. Once the anxiety is in check, then you're good to go and build your dopamine. And I talk about this in my book, Heal Yourself, that when you're suffering from chronic illness, we don't want to just build dopamine. Dopamine will make you think you feel better, even though you're not better. And when we're healing from chronic illness, it's very important to be in a serotonin state, a calm state. Your body is telling you it needs to rest. And that doesn't mean, sit around and be on your couch all day or lay in bed. But when your dopamine goes up, your drive and your motivation kick in, and you tend to tackle way more than what you should be when you have chronic illness. So when I'm starting clients in my program, we definitely do things in a certain order. We address anxiety first. And if there is chronic illness, we're not going to be building dopamine right away. It's not important. Your body is saying rest. We want to honor the body. We want to work on our body bank account. We want to rebuild our reserves. That is so key. And you're not going to build your reserves back up in your body if you're running around like a chicken with its head cut off because you want to complete all these tasks. So we want to really work on that. So when it comes to ADHD, what I've found is the opposite. So it's high dopamine. So these people have a lot of dopamine, but they haven't learned to channel it well. And that can be because of anxiety. So they're anxious, they're all over the place. Or what can happen is that they're not on passion and purpose. So I have incredibly high levels of dopamine. I regularly knock my levels down. They're just too high. And that's why I used to become manic, because my dopamine would go really, 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 really high. I couldn't sustain it and I would drop into low dopamine mode. And because of my serotonin status, my serotonin was low. So I would go into depression and migraine land. And then my dopamine levels would build back up and boom, I would be back into mania. I'd be up for 2 weeks at a time. I'd be tackling all the things, cleaning all the houses, not just my house, everybody else's house. And then I would fall back down. And so it was this really not fun cycle. And for me, what I needed to do was just raise my serotonin up to bring that dopamine back down, because for my genetics, it's not for all people. And when I first did my neurotransmitter course, I did not understand that everybody's brain is different. Not everybody has my genetics. So for me, raising my serotonin brings down my dopamine. And for most people who have a monoamine oxidase minus minus status, that's what the case will be. But some people, they already have decent levels of serotonin, or they have something blocking their serotonin. So it gets very, very complex. And that is really why I created the Integrative Healing Academy, because I wanted more people trained in really understanding how the brain works and how to see these different patterns and what to do with these different patterns so that we can help more people. But back to ADHD, for these people, we often want to bring the dopamine down a little bit, bring that serotonin up so they're not bing, 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 bouncing off the walls. And the other thing we want to do is really focus on passion and purpose. So if you have no passion and purpose in your life, the odds are that dopamine is going to go to anxiety. You're going to pick something that's very unhealthy and hyper focus on it over and over and over again. We often see this with relationships. I used to do this all the time in my relationship. I used to, create these fears that were happening. Like, Eric's cheating on me, or he's doing this. And I would just cycle and cycle and cycle because my dopamine was leading to this OCD. And I had to channel it, right? And definitely bringing down my dopamine really helped. But when I started to understand this and heal my brain and get really focused on my business Motivated to Heal and helping clients, and I was so channeled into this task that I was so passionate about, then that dopamine had a place to go. And if it doesn't have a place to go, then it normally creates a lot of chaos in your life. The other thing that I found, and I didn't understand anything about this when I was in university, but I knew that if I went and sat and listened to somebody talking really, really slowly, that I was not going to hear anything. My brain would just go off into all these other places that it could be. So I always had to multitask whenever I wanted to learn something. So audiobooks have been a blessing for me because and speed reading, being able to learn how to read faster. But I definitely prefer audiobooks. I can turn somebody up to 2.0 and I have no choice but to focus. And a lot of people can't even hear at that speed. They can't comprehend the person talking, but that's where my brain likes to be. So those are little tips and tricks that I've found. Going for a walk really helps when you're listening to something. If you have somebody over, like for me, sometimes I'll start finishing people's sentences, and I've become very conscious that I do that, and I try not to. So instead, I busy myself. I will, do the dishes while I'm talking to somebody, or I'll invite somebody on a walk, or we'll go for a horseback ride. And that way my body is doing something and it's kind of taking some of that brain power away. So again, just reiterate, please always check your genetics, because you can be like, well, I have too much dopamine, and that's not the case. You could just be in anxiety land. Or you think that you want to lower your dopamine by raising your serotonin, but you're a monoamine oxidase plus, and really that will not be the best for you. So important. And the genetics test that I use right now is Ancestry. It's only $100. Probably going to go on sale for like $50 this week for Black Friday. And then I like the organic acids test to look at the metabolites. So the genetics is showing us what your brain should be doing. And when we take that with your organic acids test, we actually see what your brain is doing. And then we can be like, okay, this is the support that you need. And as always, if there's oxalate overload or ammonia issues, that's going to need to be addressed first, because you're going to have trouble building your serotonin or your dopamine with that there, because it's going to block the formation of those neurotransmitters. So super fun. The brain is definitely my absolute favorite subject. It's the most complex, followed, of course, by our detox pathways, which is my second favorite subject. The 3 phases of detoxification are just so amazing to learn about when you actually see them in depth. So Arena says, what natural protocols can I do to help with ADHD? So we went over those. you want to test, you want to make sure it is a COMT minus minus. If there's no anxiety present, then you can do things like tyrosine or ginkgo biloba to help build that. A caveat there, you do also want to check your thyroid function, because if you're prone to hyperthyroid, which is much more rare, but I always have to mention it. And as always, anything you hear today is for educational purposes only, which I should have said at the start of the talk, but here it is. If you are prone to hyperthyroid, which again is more rare, there's not a lot of people there, but taking tyrosine would be contraindicated there. You'd be doing better with ginkgo biloba. But for most people, tyrosine is also going to support the thyroid, because tyrosine is the precursor to your thyroid hormone. So cool stuff there. Lisa says, how to naturally support children with ADHD and ADD without testing, particularly high anxiety. So I would definitely test. Testing is always needed. You're just going to guess, you're going to do more harm. And especially with children, you don't want to be playing around with that. So children, definitely we want to support the precursors, and we want to support cofactors. ADD and ADHD, it's more likely going to be ADHD. And the ADD is just being thrown in there. So the ADD would be without the hyperactivity. And if they are ADHD and having anxiety, and they might not be hyperactive, instead it's just channeling to anxiety, right? So hyperactivity doesn't have to be like jumping around off the walls. High anxiety would also be the same thing. You're just jumping off the walls in your head versus actually physically jumping off the walls. So I would call that more ADHD. They probably do have high levels of dopamine, low levels of serotonin, low levels of GABA. That all needs to be supported. The cofactors need to be supported. In children in particular, we do have to look at attachment. And Gordon Neufeld, to me, is the best that I have read and learned from over the years. I would highly recommend taking his Power to Parent series at the minimum. If you're really ambitious, then go and do his intensive 1 and 2, and then whatever course is related to whatever age your child is at, to really help understand what's going on in their brain and how to support healthy attachment. Because most kids going to school are going to be peer attached, and it's going to be one of the main causes of their anxiety, and that does need to be addressed. With any of this work on our mind that we do, we cannot let go of other things like emotional trauma. We cannot let go of, or not even let go, or not consider. We have to consider everything. We can support our brain, yes, but you do have to do the other work. For children, it is attachment. For adults, it's mindset work, it's emotional healing, it's neural reprogramming, it's work with our inner child. All of that needs to be addressed also, but it definitely is so much easier when it comes from a balanced brain. And another caveat is anybody who's taking any type of medication that's going to affect their neurotransmitters, whether it's a benzo, whether it's an antidepressant, antipsychotic, any of those, they need to work with a practitioner, because starting to take some of these things like tyrosine or 5-HTP, or trying to build your GABA, or even taking something as simple as magnesium, can cause you to spiral downhill. So those medications change receptors in the brain, and they create a form of addiction. Even though you don't feel you want to take them, it does create an addiction in the brain, and it does cause long-term harm to the body. So the longer you're on the medications, the more that your receptors are becoming very reliable on it. So please get proper testing, look into attachment, and make sure that you're not really playing with the brain, especially of a child. It's one thing if you're experimenting on yourself and you want to go down trial and error route yourself, that's okay. Those are your own natural consequences. I can tell you it's so much easier to get help and get, proper support, but doing it, trying to experiment with a child can lead to, bigger disasters. Linda says natural remedies to help with anxiety related to ADHD. So the anxiety is normally going to be caused by high dopamine. So you want to check your monoamine oxidase status, support your serotonin production with 5-HTP or tryptophan, depending on what we see on an organic acids test. Get your GABA levels up. So I love passion flower. It's a great little herb, super powerhouse, and it works to increase your GABA in your brain. and support with your cofactors like magnesium and P5P and zinc, and do a lot of work on mindset. Byron Katie is really good. I have part 2 and part 3 in my book is all dedicated to mindset work and mindset training and meditation. So that's definitely really important. You have to address the underlying fears and the underlying stress. You could take a ton of supplements and put yourself into apathy, kind of like you would with a medication, but that's not our goal. We want to feel our emotions. We want to grow from our emotions. Our emotions are what lead to growth in our brain, and the things that we're going through is what leads to that growth. We just have to get the tools to go through it in a healthy way. All right, I have my IHA live calls in 2 minutes. So I'm going to say goodbye, but I hope you guys do check out the Black Friday discounts that we're going to be running for the next 7 days, starting tomorrow. Jump on board. We've only got a handful of spots available, and we'd love to see you in the program if you're passionate about helping people heal. That's what we're looking for. We want really passionate practitioners out there making a difference. So you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll do a live stream sometime in December. Bye. Except I can't turn it off.